Hey guys, so we just had YCS Guadalajara conclude this weekend and also YCS Bogota the weekend before that, so I thought I'd take a look at the most played hand traps and staples again, since these two YCS events were post-Alba structure deck with Branded Despia being the new tier 1 deck. So this was the top 32 breakdown for YCS Bogota, and shoutouts to Bold Spider as usual for creating these graphics. I'll link her channel down below, so make sure to check it out. As you can tell from the graph, Branded Despia is taking the competitive scene by storm, but you still can't forget other decks like Prank Kids and Fluandereeze. As for YCS Guadalajara this past weekend, still some decks that weren't identified, but you can see that the breakdown was sort of similar, with Branded Despia and Prank Kids being the most dominant decks. So with the topping lists that were publicly available, I'll break down the most played hand traps and staples, but keep in mind that only 32 of the top 64 lists among these two YCS events were found and are a part of this video. Thanks again to Bold Spider for providing me with all of the deck lists. First, to quickly go over the deck size among the topping lists that were available, one big trend you'll notice compared to YCS Charlotte is that the appearance of 60 card pile decks has drastically reduced, and most were running between 41 to 45 cards. People are not afraid to shy away from the 40 card deck lists anymore, and the most recent YCS events have been a clear example of that. As for an overview of the hand traps played in the main deck, it ranged from 0 to 17 hand traps with a median of 9.5 cards. Now compared to the last time I did this analysis for YCS Charlotte, the median was a whopping 15 cards due to the abundance of 60 card pile decks, so the trend has declined, but 9.5 hand traps is still on the high end among all of the top card breakdowns I've done over the last year and a half. If you look at the proportion of hand traps relative to main deck size though, the median is now about 21%, which again is a little bit lower than in YCS Charlotte, so the decline isn't just because of the smaller deck size. As for the side deck, you can see that it ranged from 0 to 8 hand traps with a median of 3, which too is a decline since YCS Charlotte. Now if there's a decline in the amount of hand traps being played, then that probably means there's at least a bit of an increase in the number of going second board break cards being played instead, like cards like Dark Ruler or Lava Golem, or even simple back removal like Cosmic Cyclone. The number of going second board breakers in the main deck range from 0 to 7 with a median of 3 cards, which is up from 0 from YCS Charlotte. By proportion relative to main deck size, the median was about 6%. Of course, board breaker cards are typically more so delegated for the side deck, and you see that it ranged from 0 to 10 with a median of 5.5 cards, which is higher than it was for YCS Charlotte as well. So let's cover the top 10 most played hand traps among the topping lists that were available, and number 1 as always is Ash Blossom, which is now more important than ever since so many deck lists are playing Branded Fusion. Not just Branded Despia, but a whole lot of other branded variants like Eldritch and Tri-Brigade. I think it's safe to say that you probably should be playing this in the main deck. Tied for first is actually Ghost Belle. This has been gaining popularity because of the branded stuff, as you can negate the effects of monsters like Albion or Libellion Dragon, and not to mention try to stop branded in red. It's also good for stopping DP from reviving back from the grave as well, so make sure to have this at least on the side. And number 3 is Ghost Ogre, which has been popular the last few months to try to stop the Brave Token Engine or the Fluandereeze field spell. Unfortunately, it's not good against Branded Despia, so let's see if it declines in play soon, at least in the main deck. After that we have Infinite Impermanence, which was all played in the main deck among the topping lists that were available. Generic card and basically can be used against most decks, and good for going first and second. At number 5 we have Nibiru, which saw an even split in terms of being mained or sided. The card is also not good against Branded Despia, so this card may also see some decline in play moving forward, but I suppose it also depends on the upcoming ban list. Then we have Effect Veiler, another monster negate card, which is nice to have. It's a light monster as well, so depending on the deck, if you are playing Branded Fusion, it may serve as fusion fodder to bring Albion Dragon out. Next we have DD Crow, which hasn't been popular in a while but gaining traction because you guessed it, because of Branded Despia, and can be useful against Branded in red. The downside of Crow is that it's bad against Fluandereeze since they are looking to banish everything, so it's something to consider if you want to main deck this card since Flu is still very popular. After that we have Gamma, which has fallen off a bit since the last time I did this analysis, but still a great card. Then we have Droll and Lockbird, which isn't too bad, but we can only fit so many hand traps, and I think most lists are preoccupied with trying to fit their decks with Ashes, Ogres, and Bells. Droll is usually great against rogue decks as well, so it's nice to have if you have the space. And lastly, in the 10th spot we have Token Collector, which has fallen off a bit since the last analysis. Not as many pile decks recently, but can be pretty clutch against the right matchups. Now as for the most played side deck staples, once again we have Call by the Grave at number 1. This card is now even more useful because of Branded Despia. There's just so many cards you can hit with Call by against that strategy, not to mention the card is still useful to stop DP as well. After that we have Forbidden Droplet, which has climbed up this time around, and it's nice against Branded Despia as well, as they usually look to summon Guardian Chimera on your turn, where they get to pop and draw, so getting to stop that without targeting is pretty nice, mostly main decked as well. And then we have our first back removal in Twin Twisters. Quick play removal is pretty popular at the moment to try to hit Pandemonium for Prank Kids or Dreaming Town for Flu, since they can only be activated in the main phase. Now another reason why quick play removal would be popular is because of the rise of floodgates like Anti-Spell Fragrance, because it is a great card against Branded Despia as they are rather spell heavy. Imperial Order is gone at least, but who knows if anything will happen to Anti-Spell as well. Then we have a card that has not made it to my analysis ever, Dimensional Barrier, another kryptonite against Branded Despia, where you not only get to stop fusion summons, but can also negate the effects of fusion monsters. Of course, you can declare other summoning mechanics, well except Link, but for the most part it's played to stop Branded fusion plays. Next we have some more back removal in Cosmic Cyclone and Harpy's Feather Duster. They're always on here, so not much to say about them. After that we have yet another card that is becoming popular due to Branded Despia, and that is Super Polymerization. Obviously a card you can't stop and is very format dependent, but can out problematic monsters in a hurry and can get you a big body as well. Can out your Branded fusion monsters, but can also be good at getting rid of your opponent's DPE if you have the right super poly materials on board. Evenly Matched comes next, a card that has been popular for the last couple formats now. The best is when your opponent leaves a token on board and you get to resolve evenly, where they are forced to keep only the token since tokens can't be banished face down. Sadly, that doesn't happen too often, but it sure does feel good when it does. Lastly, at number 10, we have Triple Tactics Talent, which was dipping in price the last couple of months, but might see an increase now that TTT is pretty good at this format. You have decks like Branded Despia and Flu that are activating monster effects and playing on your turn, so this can be pretty good for going second, but also first if you get hand trapped. Crossout Designator was also played in 10 lists, so cards like that, TTT, and Call By are quite popular right now. Alright guys, so that was it for another YCS Top Cut breakdown of the most common hand traps and staples. Hope that was helpful in adjusting your deck list. Thanks again to my wonderful patrons. The data file for this video is now available for you guys. Take care everyone.